Hi, everybody. What's up?
Hello.
I don't think I really have to introduce these people, but I'm going to. Richard, of course, my bro from the same Mo, and Suzy from, well, I met her somewhere else, and it's a long, complicated story. But so the reason we're here tonight is because Richard and Suzy started talking about debating. And Suzy said, I don't know anything about debating. And so Richard started explaining things. And so they get into a longer discussion about it and said, hey, why don't we talk about debating? So here we are.
Yeah, that leads us to right now.
That leads us to right now. So, Richard,
okay, well, that was a good show. Y'all have a great night. Want a special thanks for those in the side chat, including Critical Cripple, Mama Atheist, Math Pig.
Yeah.
Amiga and IQ somewhere.
Right on.
Back in there. If IQ is still awake.
It's
IQ is like the people on the old SNL skit. They had the Somalians or something like that, or Africans, and they were always known for working like 10 jobs, and so they did a skit on it, and they worked in the airplane, and there was 3 of them. They did everything. like the one was the stewardess and a co-pilot, and the pilot was also the mechanic and the engineer, and the other stewardess was also a pilot. And
sounds about right, though.
Yeah, that's IQ.
Oh, that's
yeah. Richard just moved into a mansion today, guys.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
It's a French chalet, just so you know. I made that up. I don't even know what those words mean.
Oh my goodness. Cozy, high in the mountain French house.
Baby grand, not a full grand. I'm just saying it's modest.
Yes. It is. Matt Pig said, Richard, your shop looks good. He renovated over the weekend.
I knocked out a wall. I did a few things. It's like a weekend hobby thing. You know, I had an extra 4 hours. I thought I'd use it usefully, and put it to good use. Yeah.
I had piano lying around, and so I had to build a chalet around it. And I can tell it's French from the beard.
Obviously.
Parlez-vous français? No.
No.
That's all I know. That and we.
We, yeah.
I know how to say taxi in French. I can say taxi in French. You ready? Listen really closely. Taxi.
Taxi.
Taxi. That's French. Yeah.
Taxi. Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you.
So today's French lesson is over.
Yeah.
Yep.
We.
So let's go on to debate and debate theory and how to have debates.
Yeah.
And I think a good way to start that is, Suzy, if you would speak a little bit why you would even want to have this talk. If you talk a little bit about that would really get things rolling.
Sure. I wanted to originally do this because just going live with Richard the other day, whenever it was on B's stream, we were kind of already debating when I had brought up what I had done that day, and I told you about the documentaries I was watching, and then you initially just kind of went, and then so what do you think about this and this and this and like this theory, and I did kind of just in my head was like, whoa. Just let me regroup my thoughts. So yeah, and then just like learning from you, because you look like somebody who, and I'm not the only one, like every single person who watches you is like, oh my gosh, like this guy is so freaking brilliant, you're interesting. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to do that just to kind of pick your brain.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts.
More to pick from.
All swelled up.
But yeah, that's the real reason that I wanted to just learn off of that, because I love to learn every day. We're a student of life, all of us, right? So,
right on. So disclaimer: I am not a professional debater. I have never professionally studied debate or taught debate in any way, but I do find these things really, really interesting. And the more of these conversations that I have with people, and I thank you for doing this, because you're going to make me think about this, and I'm going to learn things from you because of that. So thank you so much for participating in it that way. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so so you picked a topic.
Yes. So what we had decided before we hit the live button is we wanted to figure out a topic of debate where we could both just kind of feed off of each other. And I had brought up, well, sports has always been super prevalent in my life growing up. And as a woman, especially, like playing hockey was kind of always seen as like more of a men's sport. And then just getting the stigma from people, or women can't do this because of this and so and so. And just my personal opinion is that's total bullshit. I understand that men are physically stronger and all that, but that doesn't mean that that's all the game has to be about, right? So women, and then you said, well, we're going to go into it a little bit more. We're going to go into like transsexuals in sports and trans people or whatever. And I guess then we can even further go into anything that's kind of more like male dominated. And it's weird because things that are more male dominated, people like like the homosexuals or transsexuals, they are also seen kind of like, I don't want to say like women, like, but they're kind of looked down upon more in like male dominated things than female dominated things. So we could like digress that way. And yeah.
That sounds pretty good. Okay. So the first thing that we should be deciding is who's going to have the burden of proof. Okay. And when you're deciding that, how you decide that is by someone making a positive assertion. Mm-hmm. Okay. It should never be in the negative, ever, ever. And for a statement to be in the negative is to say something like, if I made the assertion that hormonal abnormal people should not be able to participate in sports. That's a negative statement because I'm including that they should not be.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it should be a positive statement so that it's not confusing, because you end up soon getting into double negatives.
Yeah.
And you want to avoid that like crazy for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. So what we need is a positive assertion that is something. It doesn't have to be something you believe. It doesn't need to be your actual opinion, or it doesn't need to be your actual stance about it. We just need a positive assertion, and we should decide who makes that positive assertion. So to make this easy for you, I'll make the positive assertion.
I was just going to nominate you for that.
Thank you so much. I thought you might. Because we have talked about this a little bit. So I'll make a positive assertion in a frame that I think I can support with my present knowledge, because we're just doing this right off the cuff. And you can deny it, you can agree with it, and then if you agree with it, we'll move on from there. Let me see. A positive assertion that should be pretty easy to argue against or for concerning people in sports and physicality attached to sexuality, or not sexuality, to, how should I say it, to gender. Is that the right way to say it?
I guess so, because we are kind of talking about clear. I mean, we can go into all the different genders, but like we're going to just talk about right now, for all intents and purposes, like females in sports, and then we can go to like male sports. So I guess gender, if you want to call it that. Like I don't want to offend anybody who doesn't.
I don't want to offend anyone either, but speaking medically, it's sex.
Yeah. Okay, got you. Sex.
Okay, so I'm going to use the word sex, if that's okay. Okay, so the positive assertion that I would make is that males have more physical prowess than females in sports. How's that? Do you think that works pretty good as a positive assertion?
That's definitely a positive assertion. It's not negative in any way. It's just Okay, so males have more physical prowess in sports than females.
Yeah.
In the sex. Okay, so am I supposed to debate that now? Because you're looking at me like, oh.
Well, right now you're supposed to review it, think about your position, and whether or not you think you could defend the opposite statement.
So the opposite statement would be males do not have, like, okay. I kind of agree with that. I mean, are you thinking? Because I'm thinking about like scientific, like, you know, they're.
Well, I have to ask you, what's the sport?
Well, like obviously not a female sport, but I mean, if you look at like hockey, for example, like that's 100% true. And you know what though, is that playing hockey too, growing up, there you got your men's hockey and you've got your female hockey. Male hockey, I used to play men's hockey and they can hit, but women, it's a law, like it's a rule that no, women cannot hit. But I totally think, cause as a player too, there's some freaking butch chicks that you play against, and like I've got no problem being like the tiniest one and like getting the lights knocked out of me. You know what I mean? Like I think that should totally be. So I mean, I guess am I kind of now debating against what you just said?
No, we're deciding on topic. This is something you definitely have to do. Okay, so the reason I said sports generally is because not all sports, and this was out of consideration of the opponent in this case, you wouldn't normally get this kind of consideration, of course, is because not all sports are dependent upon physical prowess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's just not a fact.
Like pool is a sport.
Sure.
Darts is kind of technically a sport. Poker is a sport. In fact, with poker, I think women have the upper hand on that.
Okay, now that would be part of the debate.
Actually,
volleyball could be viewed as that as well, because some guys are so big they can't move as fast as women move.
And women can jump super high if they're like lean and tall.
Yep. So it just it depends on the sport.
Is chess a sport?
And what comes to my mind
I don't know how low you want to go on the sport level. Darts was already pushing it.
Technically, it's a sport, though.
However, Dungeons and Dragons definitely a sport.
Dungeons and Dragons is
definitely a sport. No doubt about it.
Not unless you're getting up and getting dressed and going out and reenacting that shit. Then it's a sport.
See, that's what I said.
You're going out and carrying a heavy shield and a sword and fighting a dragon. By God, that's a sport right there.
People do that. People like recreate stuff like that.
Okay, so are you okay with the assertion of the debate? Do you think you can defend the opposite or the other stance on that topic from where you are right now, or do you think you'd like to negotiate a different assertion?
I would feel comfortable, especially with the little, like, thank you for the consideration as well, that it doesn't have to be a certain sport. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of generalize the whole sport thing of it. So, yeah, it could go like a lot of different ways with that. So, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Okay, so I'll make the positive assertion that men, because of their sex, have greater prowess in sports.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay,
we're set. All right, good. Look, we're moving along.
See?
Okay, so
you're already to step one.
Already to step one. It's more like step 4 already, actually, if you think about it. Okay, so whoever has the burden of proof is normally given the first, the ability to speak first in the debate, and sometimes because they went first and you get equal turns, they would not get a closing statement.
Right. Okay.
So because of that, it balances it out. Yeah, you get to talk first and people are going to remember what you said. Mm-hmm. But you don't get to talk last, which is something that people easily remember also.
Yeah. Because that's like the end of everything. And it's like a courtroom, right? The last closing argument. It's like, yeah.
So if you can wiggle your way into getting a closing statement from the moderator, even though you went first, you've probably already won the debate.
Okay.
if all other things being equal, if you get to talk first and last, oh yeah.
I think that's how this is going to go for you.
Well, it's not a real debate, so it's okay. Yeah, that's kind of part of the description of the fun we're having today. Okay, so all right, so I'll give what I know in supporting evidence for the assertion. I want everyone in the audience to know I don't actually believe anything I'm about to say. This is going to be very non-characteristic of me and show a lot of bias, especially against women.
Just going to say,
I don't believe is true. What's that?
Said especially as a man too against women.
Sure.
He can't believe it's true because he's my brother and he knows better.
Yeah. No.
I've done almost every male job out there. Like, you can't say.
True story.
You could never say that. So, moving on. Drink.
So I don't hold these opinions personally. I am entertaining a position that I don't hold in order to have the discussion. Okay. Okay. So I would open with something supporting my case, like men are physically stronger than women on average. Men are also physically taller than women on average, which is why, this is fallacious, which is why men's sports like basketball and football and all of these reasons, this prowess that men have over women is why those sports are more popular and make more money. Okay. There you go. There's my opening statement.
All right. So you're just going to say physical, like men are physically more built, like stronger or whatever, because of their testosterone, their muscles build and stuff like that. Okay, I totally agree with that. However, the way that women are, so if we're going to talk about sports that are like volleyball, women's hockey, there is women's football and stuff like that. It works because we don't need, because like I said with the whole hockey thing, how hitting is illegal in girls hockey. So now we have to actually, our skill level has to go up in order, because men in hockey, I'm just using, and football too, can just go around hitting each other. Like, and that's how they do. That's like their testosterone thing. They love doing that. My history teacher once said that watching like somebody's hitting a good hit in hockey is like watching like a car accident. It gets us off or whatever. And I'm just like, women are not like that. But also women are very kind of psycho. Okay, so women against women, other women are like, if I'm playing in a hockey if I'm playing against this other hockey team, obviously they're both gonna be female. It's not just like a game for us. It's like we have to win, which is where our, I guess you could say, our prowess kind of comes out more in like the whole being a bitch thing. It's like mental warfare as opposed to physical warfare. So I think that definitely, and I mean, women in sports either way is not going to be that popular, but like women, like volleyball and stuff like that, people like to watch women just kick the shit out of other women. Mud wrestling, I mean, look at that. Men just love to watch women win.
That may be about something else. I'm not certain.
That may be about something else.
Also, beach volleyball.
Beach volleyball, jumping up and down, yeah. In bathing suits, basically. But I'm talking like, yeah, so I'm just like men may be more physically like advanced than women or whatever. But I feel that like just because we don't have that, we have to find different ways around like, you know, winning or the sports that we're playing. So we have to like start learning, like we're taking psychology to learn like about where we are in the game and our skills and our efforts. We're not just going around hitting people, you know what I mean? And I know all the women that I've played against especially are, after the hockey game's done, men are like, let's go for a beer, you know, whatever, don't worry about that. Women are like, I'm gonna kill you. Like if you're walking your car alone, like I'm gonna freaking kill you because of that hit first period at like 2 minutes in, you know what I mean? It's crazy. And then you get riled up for the next game. When you play the next team again, you're like, oh, oh.
Okay, so let's straw man and steel man each of those two statements. Okay. So the reason I'm saying that should be done, which only in an actual debate, it would be only done mentally, right? You would never make this part of any kind of debate.
I just want you to teach me how to debate.
Right. Okay. So if I look at your assertion that women are driven by different motivators, women are more creative when they're participating in a sport, and that creativity might come out in violence. It might just come out in being downright sneaky. But they're definitely more creative is basically what you're saying. And because of that, all other things being equal, you could actually see a female excelling in a male-dominated sport for those particular reasons. She's more mobile, she's more agile, she's sneakier,
Exactly.
and she is really, truly motivated on a personal level.
Exactly. So if you take, let's say, like you said, football, basketball, like most of the male-dominated sports, if we were to, for some reason, say that everything's co-ed, so we can have males and females, but you're going to leave all the physical aspects out of it. So no hitting, no tackling. And if women, like, so males can also run. So with football, like, running's a big thing too, but females can train themselves to do that. Like, females are phenomenal runners when they're training, and we're lightweight. So
Yeah, the chances of a lighter person with stronger legs, especially if the majority of their weight was in their lower body versus their shoulders and upper body, like a male,
gravity,
actually can be much more agile than a male because of those differentials.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was me steel manning your position. Now I'm going to straw man your position.
Okay. All right.
So when you say that females are more emotionally involved and motivated more by their emotion, like it's personal in a sport, then I'm going to say that they are not thinking about the sport itself. They're not really in the game. And if they're not keeping their head on their shoulders and they're letting their emotions take them over.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I would say that that's a flaw in female in these. I don't believe any of this stuff, guys. I'm just making argument. That's a flaw in females and makes them less likely to succeed in any sport, no matter what they're doing.
But that's what a sport is. A sport is you're playing against somebody else and you're defending your position, so you want to win. So if women are more emotionally involved, then that helps them to win the game, like it did with me. I was very negatively motivated.
This is the next part of the debate, Suzy. You're skipping over parts.
Oh, sorry.
So if you would take my statement and try to make it look as strong as possible, and then after that try to make it look as weak as possible.
So I'm trying to make you look as strong as possible now? I don't get it.
First, yeah.
Okay.
Because when you steel man someone's statement.
Oh, so you acknowledge, kind of like I should be acknowledging what you're saying by saying something and then going on the defense? Like, is that?
Well, not exactly. It's just a thorough way to look at whatever someone says. If you try to put it in the best light possible, then you're understanding their position better.
Right. Like acknowledgement, like
you don't have to actually acknowledge them at all. You just need to do this mentally.
But I mean, yeah, that's what I mean. Like acknowledgement of like where you're standing. Like, so I'm understanding where you are. Like, not necessarily that I have to say, yeah, I acknowledge that. And
right. Okay, cool. I understand the way you use the word acknowledge there. So when you mentally steel man their position, you can understand better where they are and probably where they're going to next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, touche. So
but then when it comes to your argument, you want to make their position look as weak as possible without committing any fallacies, of course, or at least any obvious ones. So you really need to both mentally steel man and straw man their position.
Okay. So your position, what you just said, was the fact that women are more emotional is actually kind of like a detriment to their success.
That was my critique of your statement. My statement was that men have greater prowess in sports and are always more successful because they're bigger, stronger, faster.
Right. Okay. And then I had said that that's not necessarily true because there's so many different aspects of the game too, which is like involves your actual skill level, your endurance, your brain, and how you are able to pick apart a play and then actually execute it.
Okay, so that's really good argumentation. I want you to make a statement that supports my case.
Okay. I believe that males being stronger and more physically, just physically bigger, yeah, it definitely helps. And the fact that they don't take it personally, everything gives them that opportunity to, it's just a game. And then, because if you take something too seriously, then you end up kind of making a lot more mistakes.
Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so no, that's really good. It really is. Okay, so so after you have usually one or two opening statements, right? Then you have responses. So we've done the opening statements, we've done responses to the opening statements.
Right.
Now from there, you usually go into, like in a structured debate, you would go into timed responses, right? And from that point, the response has to be on topic, right?
Yeah.
But it can refer back to another part, or it can address the most recent thing, either one. Okay. In a highly structured debate, you only get to address the most recent thing. You can never refer back to what the original statement was, and you have to keep it on topic and keep going on a certain line of thought, trying to make your point.
Right.
You can't, once you miss a response to something, it's done. It's over. You can't go back.
And you have to always be constantly fighting your battle. You have to be for your point, right? Yeah. Okay. I see.
Okay. So let's do that. Let's do a little bit of, and we're not going to do this timed at all, but,
okay. But
the last thing that happened was you steel man, straw man my position for understanding and finding its weak points.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I would then be able to make my first statement that's just free but not part of my opening, and I could now retort against your opening.
Yeah.
Okay. So I might say something like, "Well, yes, of course, women are more emotionally attached to the sport they're participating in. Women are generally under more pressure socially than men in the first place, and thereby are more driven to succeed at whatever they do. Because socially in our world, women feel like they're compared to men and have this standard to meet. But the standard is colored through these lenses of society that make any effort a woman makes to be a lesser than the equal effort by a man. So thereby women have to work harder. Mm-hmm. But the problem with that is that they're so working hard at success that it's kind of like looking for a forest, but you're too close and you can only see one tree. They're too close to it. They're not thinking logically about it. They're too emotionally involved. And because that, they can't be as successful because they're not thinking about tactics, how to be practical, when to reserve energy, and when to expend it fully.
Okay. So now, but you're assuming that just because we have this pressure on us to almost compete with the male side of things, that so you're saying that our vision is completely distorted of success, and we're just thinking about in the back of our brains, we're just thinking about, oh well, I can do better than men, let me just show you this. That I can understand, because I do agree that the pressure for women in sports and just general is way higher than a man. Look at all the men professional sports you have, and who really watches women. I barely watch women's hockey, and I'm all for it. But at the same time, when you're playing, if you grow up in those sports as a woman, you learn how to use that to your advantage. Now, I'm not talking about being successful in a hockey career, we're thinking about just this game right now. We're not looking toward the future. Like, and that I think also helps for women, because then the idea of like failure isn't distracting us from actually playing the game or whatever. And I understand, yes, there are certainly distractions being being a woman, and it's very difficult. But for the people who've grown up playing hockey, you learn how to use that into being successful. Like most of the women that I know who play on the Olympic hockey team, they have not had it easy, but like they've always like played like guys hockey too, to get like that skill level up. So we don't necessarily have to use that in a game, but it does help us. If you know, like, kind of what I mean. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. And I told you this was going to happen because I'm very passionate about sports.
That's good, though. Do you actually know people who are playing on the U.S. hockey team?
On the Canadian hockey team. I was scouted for Team Canada, and then I got in a car accident. But
you actually know some of those people?
Yeah.
So how do we get paraphernalia again? How do we get signatures and things like that? Sorry. Totally fanboying. Just ignore me.
I have a whole bag of like jerseys and shit, like Team Canada and stuff. But
oh my God, send me one.
They're at my dad's.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry, one of the girls who played on the Olympic team, she's from St. Anne. Her name's Bailey Bram. And when she played with us on the Rangers, I still have her jersey hanging up in our closet at home. Before she even went to the Olympics. With her
nice.
Everything on it. Yeah, number 13.
Lucky number.
Does it still smell like her? I'm just kidding.
I have no idea.
I was trying to be as obscure and strange as possible, but it didn't really work out. Okay, so
I can check that out for you, Suzy. There you go. That was weird.
I'll send it over.
Congratulations, B. That was even worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I got your back, bro. I got it. We'll roll with it.
You win this time. We'll see about the flip of the coin next time. Okay, so
again, but like, it's hard to debate something when I kind of like agree with you. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, some really smart guy a really, really long time ago, who's kind of dead right now, said that the sign of an intellectual is that they can consider and even defend something they don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's true. I think his name was Aristotle or something like that. Anyway, so
one of those guys.
One of those dead guys.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He probably didn't.
So, all right. So the next thing would be you went ahead and made your statement, and I was really afraid that when you started to make your opposing statement to my first free statement, that you might not have, but apparently, at least in my perception, you had both steelmanned and strawmanned that, seen holes and problems in it, created your own position, and stated that position. And do you feel like you did all that pretty comfortably?
I'm not gonna lie, everything I'm doing right now is super uncomfortable.
Okay, but on that particular point,
you're very intimidating.
Do you feel like you did enough review of that? You understand the basic ideas of practice, although it'll take more practice, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
But you get the general idea of that, and you understand how to perform that, why that would be advantageous to you in an argument, and why you should do it. Okay, all right. So you see all that. Good. All right, moving on. What do we got next? You got your closing statements next. You might have audience questions if there's an audience. Say you're there on the couch talking to your mom about politics, right?
Okay.
Just for instance, and your dad's right there listening. Well, you now have an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Now the audience may not want to participate, but if there's a big enough audience, almost without fail, they'll want to participate. For instance, let's see what we've got in the side chat. Okay, no one's talking. Do we have anything where anyone's commented on it? I think I saw earlier Nerdy Rodent said yes. Appeal to the audience. And he's right. sometimes an appeal to the audience can be the smartest thing to do if tactfully done. Okay, so have you ever watched debates where someone did that?
I haven't really seen too many debates, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so just in your intuition, if I said I was in a debate and I appealed to the audience to sway the audience and my interlocutor, what do you think a person might do to appeal to the audience?
Like, are you talking about asking them questions, or like if you see like well, if I was talking about women in sports, I would maybe pick out a couple of women and maybe talk to them and see like how they feel kind of about it. Like, is that even a thing, like in debate? Like, because
well, you can't verbally engage with them. They're not allowed to answer back, you could engage with the audience non-verbally. Like while you were talking, I could be sitting there doing like this. And when you say something that I think is maybe debatable, I go,
oh, okay. So now you're trying to make me look bad. Like, and then everybody sees that and is like, oh, well, if he doesn't think it, yeah.
So that would be nonverbal engagement with the audience to sway the audience, right? In politics, there was a woman listening to a speech by Trump. It was State of the Union or some crap. I don't really care about that stuff. But anyway, if you watch closely, you can see her pre-tearing a piece of paper so that at the right moment, she had it already notched top and bottom. So at the right moment, she could stand up flamboyantly, rip it in half, and throw it down.
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, didn't that actually happen?
Yeah, that's a real thing that really actually happened.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but she was just putting on a show for the audience.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a camera above her looking down, and they have it on film where she pre-tore the paper. She wasn't upset at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's political. I don't get into political stuff, but I'm just talking about that. That's a nonverbal emotional appeal to audience. That's what that is. Or you could turn to the audience and ask a rhetorical question. There was a thing. I saw your mouth go, wait.
No, I was kind of thinking out loud, and I was like,
Well, go ahead with it if you want.
Well, I had thought about when you said that about making things a spectacle. And I think that if we're going to go back to the whole sports thing, that is what men do in professional sports, is they make a spectacle. What is the point in fighting in the ice or on the field if you're not in it afterwards? You're like, oh, good job, whatever. Women are not like that. Women are just vindictive either way. They don't care who's watching. They're gonna fucking pound your face in if they don't like the way it looks,
Yeah, women understand these things, and when they're more appropriate, they understand that kind of violence should be reserved for a tire iron in the parking lot. Absolutely. They know that.
Hey, I've done it. I did that for once.
And scratching and hair pulling.
Okay, don't state anything. We're being recorded, right? Don't state anything more about what you just said. Just stop. Just let it go.
Oh, no. It's already been taken care of. Don't worry.
Oh, my gosh, you scare me. Okay, so...
I love Suzy.
You're really a frightening person.
Already took care of that shit. Concrete shoes. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just passionate.
I already did my time for that one. What?
Exactly.
What? Okay. That's great. Okay. All right. So, could you think? I mean, I'll start it, but I think you're brilliant, first of all, and I think you're creative enough. What kind of rhetorical things could you be saying while the other person, or when it's your turn to talk during a debate, to the audience to sway them? And just how subtle and smart can you be about it is the big question.
Like a rhetorical question, like, well, me being kind of the bitch that I am, I'd be something like, are you listening to this? Are you listening to this guy? Like,
that's a good one. That's good.
Do you hear the crap that's coming out of his mouth?
Now you do one of these. You gotta do one of these. Seriously?
Yeah, you really can't do that during a formal debate, but in a semi-formal or unstructured debate, you could totally do things like that.
But you don't have to say it. All you have to do is go.
Yeah, gesture, just. Like, to make
It's all about body language.
People are looking at me, it makes you look like an idiot because I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
But really, if you're
While
going
another
to use,
person is talking, for instance, if you look away, like, like you're ignoring them, people will pick up on that too. People pick up on everything. You'd just be surprised.
but you have to be careful in that situation what kind of thing you might say, because you want to say, you want to indicate to the audience when it would be something super obvious to the audience. You have to be sure that they would know why you did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can't seem random at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I could say something about, because if you were let's say you were debating against women in sports or whatever, saying how men are better because of this, like, is it something that I could say, like, so you don't think that women can play sports?
Like, yeah, you could definitely do something like that.
Like, you're just a dick who hates women, which is basically.
I think that would play pretty well in a lot of situations, but not all of them. It depends on what they're saying and how they're saying it, and whether or not it can be seen that way by the audience.
I think Critical has a question. What do the participants think about getting emotional during a debate? That would be one for Richard.
Which participants? The participants that are here right now, or the participants in the pretend debate that we're discussing?
I'm thinking.
And wait for it.
Yeah, I think he probably means like us.
I'm so okay with my perception of reality that I'm just okay with everything that happens around me. Like, I can get frustrated, but I can't get mad anymore. I don't care. Do what you want,
Yeah, he said you too now.
Us too now. My personal feelings about disingenuous emotion during a debate, I think, it's play acting, it's manipulative, and it's basically dishonest. Okay, so I won't pretend that I'm more upset than I am. I won't do that. I've seen people do it during debates and discussions, but now I'm at a point where I'm speculating as to whether or not they genuinely meant it.
Well, I emotional, because if you're really passionate about what you're debating, emotions are going to come out regardless, right? Like, for myself too, like, I can always bring in my own experiences and get emotional about it and try to make people feel sorry for me if that's what I wanted to do. But that would just be for real, like, and then I could always bring up the point, well, you're not a woman. How would you know? How would you understand?
How do you know I'm not a woman?
Well, I mean, are you?
Asking is a good way to find out. I have to agree with that. No, I'm not a woman.
All right. So then
I was going to say, never mind. My mom used to, when we were really little, she put all the girls in one tub and all the boys in the tub after. So he was in with the boys in the tub. So I'm going to assume he was a boy.
At least mom thought so.
Yeah, mom was pretty confident in that fact. Yeah.
So you can't.
Nerdy Roden wrote, what are the dirtiest possible debate tactics? I think perhaps the dirtiest thing a person can do in debate is to find key phrases that they know are going to be emotionally provocative to their interlocutor that the audience would not recognize.
So the audience wouldn't recognize the fact that you're trying to,
piss them off.
Okay. So that's the dirtiest tactic that you can use.
That's the dirtiest thing I can think of.
So I could call you a sexist.
You can call me a sexist, but it's way too obvious that I could be a sexist.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's true. Okay.
Right.
Given what you said, I honestly don't know. I'm not very good at
You'd have to really listen to a lot of talking by that other person and find where they were being open and honest and revealed something truly personal.
You could come around, like you could, against me, you could say, well, whatever happened to your hockey career? You're not playing hockey anymore, so you're a woman, you weren't successful.
Right, that would be dirty pool.
So what gives you the right to talk about women in sports being successful? Like you could totally, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Okay. What else we got? I think that pretty much wraps up the whole thing. Next time, if you'd like, if you think it'd sound entertaining, we'll do an actual structured debate. B could possibly moderate if she'd volunteer for that, and we'll actually pick topics. We'll talk about.
I want to do like some research and stuff before we do that, so that I can have like bullet points and I can make up like some statements and stuff, so that I'm like actually prepared. Like this was good because now I know how to look up information and stuff and what information I should be looking up.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's perfect. I thank you for like actually spending the time to educate like me and everybody else too. Right.
It's really honoring and it's humbling, and I thank you for the opportunity. Actually, but what do we got in audience participation, sis?
Well, Doubting Thomas wanted to come up for a minute. Are you guys cool with that?
Duh, of course.
I'm not sure I know who that is.
I don't know who it is.
I've seen him around on Togs, and yeah, you know who Doubting Thomas is.
It was total sarcasm. I know exactly. I know his voice.
Oh.
We've spoken.
Okay, well, there you go.
And by the way,
No.
Doubting Thomas is
You wanna come
not
up
John
again?
Peterson. Doubting Thomas is not John Peterson, no matter how much
Oh.
their voices sound similar.
He said no thanks. Never mind. I guess he changed his mind. Okay.
He meant participate in the chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
participate in the chat.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so what's next on the agenda for the day? What else did we say we would do?
I don't have the best.
I mean, do you absorb all that, Suzy, or
Some, like most of it. It's good because it's like Richard's like, hey, the next part would be this, as opposed to just like doing a fake one, and then I'm like, oh, why am I saying this? It's perfect. But it's great because I want to do is I want to pick like a topic, and like we can have our positions. Like, do we have our position? We have our positions first, right? And then that's when we bring in our statements. The open person, it's like always a positive statement. And then you gotta acknowledge, but then also kind of debate, and then you can get your points, and then you get your audience around there, and then closing statements, and yeah, we're good.
I think the only thing that I neglected to mention is discovery. That is, if you're going to have a formal debate, you're actually supposed to trade your arguments ahead of time, fully written out.
Full disclosure, okay.
Most people don't know that when you see two professionals debating, they already knew what the other person was going to say.
Okay, so should we do that then?
Well, it depends. I mean, that would be a really formal way to do it. Like paid people who do this for a living, they do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me personally, whenever I have a discussion or debate with someone, I am sure to never prepare ahead of time. That way I'm working within my theory of understanding and my present knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not in any way being sneaky at all. I can't be.
But you have more present knowledge than I do, though.
Well, I'm considerably older than you too, so that's okay. No, I mean, it depends on the topic. When it comes to like knowledge of spiritual texts, I never go and look something up. I just don't do that.
I would have to.
I
But
would too.
especially like if
I would definitely have to do some serious investigating on any topic.
That's because somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Ricardo, said something about a debate about abortion. So if it wasn't a debate about something like that, that's like very close to my heart, it's going to be super hard for me not to get like emotional during the whole thing. And like, I know what what I know what I think about it, and somebody else obviously probably doesn't think the same thing about it as I do. So that's when I'm more arguing than debating. Like that's where I would kind of lose the whole structure and just kind of go off, because so it would have to be something that I would have to research that I'm completely unbiased against, right?
Right. Yeah, it sounds like you're thinking of all this in very ordered fashion. So good on you.
Yeah, well,
all right,
Suzy, I didn't know if you were going to do a rant today, so I made this banner for you.
Warning, Suzy rant. No. I should maybe not do that today. Not on yours again.
Hey, you know what? You can actually do that. You have the one guy in the community that will not get mad. It's like, if you want to do it now.
No.
Julie LaVoice just reminded us that she was part of a debate team in high school.
Oh, no way.
Oh, why aren't you in on this, Julie? Didn't say anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
Even more important than that, if Julie would point out what I've forgotten or what I neglected to mention or missed, that would be awesome.
Julie, if you want to come up, I put the link in there.
Well, yeah,
Julie, if you want to completely replace me, you'd probably be better at this.
Oh, no. we can have a couple people that know what they're doing, because then I'll just learn even more.
True story.
And it's right, like that's what you said, Richard. You said anticipating other people's arguments is just part of a formal debate. Well, that's you did say that. You're like acknowledging what I said, understanding it. It gives you kind of a more an idea of like where they're going to go. And if I understand like what your arguments are exactly, then I can think of, okay, there's got to be some sort of hole in that I can run with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She said she did it like 25 years ago. You mean 15 years ago?
You won't get caught with your figurative pants down.
Oh, see, I didn't even know Amanda did debating either. Why the hell am I here? Why aren't you two up here?
Well, why am I doing this? Wait a minute.
Is there anything that you do?
Geo Sam says he wants us to start getting into logical fallacies. It is a good idea to understand what logical fallacies are in principle, and we could talk about that. Getting into discussions about the actual individual logical fallacies is probably about a 200-hour discussion.
Oh my God.
So I'm thinking it's not an appropriate time to start that. As far as what a logical fallacy is, and this is a great way to do it, and it's hard to do this. I'm going to ask you, Suzy, to do something rather difficult.
Oh, fuck.
Do you have a formal definition of what a logical fallacy is? If you do not have a formal definition, would you just make something up as you understand it?
I don't. I have no idea at all.
Okay, so make up something as you understand it.
I don't.
I just said it's going to be difficult. I wasn't kidding.
No, and I believe you when you say it's going to be hard.
Now you can refuse, but I'm asking you to just make an off-the-cuff definition for what is a logical fallacy.
I honestly,
like intuitively, just tell me what a logical fallacy would be.
I have no idea. I honestly don't. I have no idea. Pokemon? I don't know. I'm just kidding. But
Pokemons are logical fallacies because they don't exist in our reality unless you're doing an internal critique, in which case they do exist. Okay, logical fallacies are anything that's inconsistent within some kind of formal logic. Okay, now there's different kinds of logic, but most commonly used is justified true belief. Whoop. Okay, so in logic that is correspondent to reality, that means you're holding if I make the statement, you're holding a can and drinking out of it, it has an insulative cup.
Yes.
Okay. That actually is existent in reality as far as I can know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show it to exist in reality. So in correspondence to reality, it corresponds. Okay. So that would be an example of justified true belief. I can justify it because I can show the film footage.
Yeah.
It's true because everyone would agree that it was actually there. Like I could have taken its temperature, you know, and therefore I can justify that I believe it. So that's justified true belief. Okay.
Okay. So sorry, what does that have to do with logical fallacy? Like a fallacy is something that's it exists.
A fallacy is something that a person might believe, but cannot be shown. But then they speak of it as if they could show it. That's a really basic fallacy, like a logical fallacy. Like, shoot, I need a name of. Give me a name of a fallacy, guys. I need something more specific to go to as an example. Okay, so let's say really super basic, a straw man fallacy.
Okay.
Right? So, and we went over steel manning and straw manning, and straw manning is a fallacy, although steel manning is always to your advantage to do it. You can never believe a straw man because now you're in a position where you have a weak understanding of it, and you can't attack a weak understanding. You can't attack your own weak understanding. So that's why it's a fallacy, is because it's always a lie. Okay?
Always a lie. Okay.
What a straw man fallacy is to take someone's position that they actually expressed to make it look weaker than it is.
Okay.
And then attack that weak position that they never held.
Gotcha. Okay.
For instance, if I expressed what you'd said in our pretend debate, and you said women are very driven in sports because for them it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was slick enough, I could manipulate the audience or even you, possibly. If I restated your position in a weaker way that thought about it slightly different. Like, for instance, I might say something like, women are emotionally involved in their sports, just like they're emotionally involved in relationships. And we all know that most relationships don't work out.
Okay.
That's like me comparing your statement. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Okay. So then what I'm saying out loud is her opinion of sports is like relationships.
and the whole thing that we all know that most relationships don't work out is kind of like a fact if you think about it.
It is a fact.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you're saying something that isn't a fact. You're not comparing it to, but you're using it in like a factual sense of what I said. So how can I debate that? Like, how can I argue against that?
So you see why that's nasty and fallacious.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea. I'm going to totally do that to you.
What's another super common fallacy?
There's a lot of them in the...
Poisoning the well. Poisoning the well is where you set someone up for failure, or you try to create a situation before, like in my opening statement. Mm-hmm. If it was formal and I know what you were going to say, I might preemptively try to put a mindset in other people's minds about what you haven't even said yet. Right?
Well, that also helps with if we're going to exchange our points of topic or whatever. That's how you could know, okay, well, she's going to go here, so I'm going to knock her off at the freaking bridge. You know what I mean? Like,
so I might say something like, well, my interlocutor for this debate was almost a pro female hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's a failed pro hockey player, it's obvious to anyone who could see that she's extremely biased about this, she can't be logical about it because she's so emotionally attached to the topic. And because of that, she can't have a clean, logical view.
So
and if I said that before you ever said anything about the topic at all, I've poisoned the well.
I wouldn't even need to share my own experiences because everybody now will be like, well, yeah, but you're just being biased about it. Like,
see, that's poisoning the well.
Poisoning the well.
But there's about 1 billion of them to review, so.
Oh, I got
that was
time.
an exaggeration.
I don't start work until Thursday, so I got time.
Amiga Nuts said simple non sequitur. So a non sequitur is when you say something that doesn't follow. It's non sequential. Okay.
Okay.
That's what non sequitur means. It doesn't follow by necessity. So for instance, if I said, I'm driving through Idaho and I see 10 red barns in a row. Every farm has 1 red barn each. And I say, then I can logically conclude that the next barn will be red.
Okay, yeah. So you're like...
Now, you can statistically indicate that the next barn should be red, but you can never state that the next barn will be red. You can't know that.
Just hypothetically, you can make an educated guess or whatever, right? Okay.
That's a super simple one, but that's a non sequitur.
Jeez, you guys are giving me lots of homework.
Matic. So they have brought up a lot of fallacies in the side chat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Back up here. Appeal to authority. He said ad nauseum, ad hominem, argumentum ad ignorantium, man about a horse, circular argument, man eater, sharpshooter,
How could it be?
red herring, argument for ignorance, not true Scotsman, and ad populum. Those are just a few.
Those are just a few.
You guys have literally lost me. Like all of these, I don't know.
Well, if you know, a lot of times, if you know why it was named that, it'll help you understand what it means.
Right.
Okay, so the red herring fallacy is based in the idea that if someone is on your trail and you're running, like a bloodhound after a prisoner escaped.
Okay.
So you get an escaped prisoner, you got a bloodhound chasing him, right?
Okay.
It could be a her. Not to be sexist, females go to prison sometimes and escape. So the idea was to take a good smelly fish like a red herring, because red herring are known to be an especially smelly fish, and drag it across your path and leave the fish out in the woods, and then you continue somewhere else. Because the bloodhound will follow the red herring.
Okay. So,
because it wants to eat the fish.
As the prisoner, you're like, it's almost like a flare if you're being chased by a missile or something.
Okay, so you got the guy with the hound, that's an interlocutor, and the guy running away, that's an interlocutor, and the hound itself is logic, and the red herring is a distraction from logic to derail the situation and make it look like something it's not.
So the interlocutor would go wherever the hound is going.
Like the audience sway will follow the hound.
Right. So yeah, if you want to speak about it, like in okay, hold on. She said David Worley's book. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, David Worley did a pretty good little book. People are speaking about it highly.
Logical fallacies and where to find them. God, my curse.
Argumentum mathpigium.
It's a fallacy where whoever really did it, you simply blame Math Pig. Yes, Nerdy. That would be absolutely accurate.
That is freaking hilarious, actually.
Fucking love Nerdy. Nerdy kills me, man. He says some funny ass shit.
That was pretty creative.
Math Pig.
Occam's razor.
Occam's
Hey,
razor
we do that all the
is
time.
Sorry,
it's pretty simple. It's where you're making unnecessary assumptions and adding to the complexity of something. The idea of the razor is to trim as much off as possible.
So what would that
Okay.
be if it was about our debate, like an unnecessary? What would you say to me if you know what I mean? Like, so
An unnecessary assumption.
Thank you.
Women's feet are smaller, and that really matters in this debate.
Okay, so yeah, yeah, okay, that's true. I mean, like, it's true that's an unnecessary assumption.
Hitchens' razor, Geo, I believe Hitchens' razor is actually flawed. It's not true that you need exceptional proof for exceptional things. That's not true. Ordinary proof can prove exceptional things. Now, it sounds intuitive when he said it, but you don't need extraordinary evidence as proof of extraordinary events. You don't. Perfectly normal proof would work just fine. We don't have that either for the things that Hitchens was talking about. So it's actually argumentium exaggeratium on Hitchens' part to go, oh, you need extraordinary evidence. No, you don't. That's not true.
Argumentium exaggeration. I like it.
I made that up. Yeah.
I made it up, yeah. So
absolutely.
Should we pick another topic for debate for next time, or should we get like the audience's opinions? Because I mean, well, maybe not, because they're like, everything they're saying is way over my head, to be quite fair. I feel like I'm an idiot right now. I'm not even lying. And I knew this was going to happen.
You know, the interesting thing about that, Suzy, is you may think that because you don't know a topic that you're not knowledgeable about it, and that's factually correct. This has nothing to do with intelligence.
Yeah, it's about like persuasion and manipulation.
No, what I'm saying is the fact that you've never studied debate has nothing to do with how smart you are.
Right, okay.
Oh, if that's fair. You can't say, I feel stupid. You don't feel stupid. You're uninformed.
No,
but you're working on correcting it, and congratulations.
I told B, because like everybody in the audience, we were going to do this on Wednesday, and I was just like really sick, and I told B, I'm like, listen, I want to be not sick for when Richard makes me look like an idiot.
That's not the idea at all.
No. And I know
it's Suzy, if it makes you feel any better, I know absolutely nothing about debating. I've never been in a debate. I've never really been interested in most debate topics because it seems like it's the same shit over and over and over and over and over again. And so I'm just as lost as you, and I'm learning as well. So don't worry about it. I'm lost too.
Perfect. But
what Julie just said was really funny. She said you could make an Occam's razor of Occam's razor by giving it unnecessary complexity. That was pretty funny.
See, you lost me again.
You can make a fallacy out of Occam's razor by over-explaining it and giving it complexity it doesn't need, which is where Occam's razor would apply.
I don't know what Occam's razor is. I'm sorry.
Where you're adding things on that are not necessary.
Oh, okay.
The idea of Occam's razor is to not add on unnecessary things.
Okay. So just like sticking,
like the Christian who says God claims to make everything, therefore he's an unembodied mind outside of the universe. That's unnecessary complete. You don't need that. And the only reason they say something like that is because they first postulate they insist that God made all things.
Yeah.
So they have a necessity of this extra complexity that's not needed to explain the natural universe. You just don't need it.
Yeah. Well, for example, why don't we think about like flat earthers? What would be an unnecessary argument in like for flat earthers?
An unnecessary argument for the idea of the flat earth No, they need every argument possible. Nothing's too complex. They can't show their case at all.
They're trying, but they're not succeeding.
Right. No, unnecessary complexity. I have a cigarette, therefore, I don't know. I can't even think of a way to put that into a fallacy. Doesn't even work for me. You guys make something up. I don't know.
You picked up a cigarette, so you don't want to go smoke it?
No, that would just be
That's
completely
a fallacy.
fallacious from the start. That would be a fallacious assumption on your part, and an obviously fallacious assumption on your part.
Right. All right. Well, I know one thing. Well, I know many things about my brother, but one thing I know is when he sticks a cigarette in his mouth, he's done. He's ready to go smoke.
Yep.
So
I'm pretty done.
All right. Sweet. So, if anybody wants to do any random streams tonight or whenever or whatever, let me know. Because when I'm not working, I don't know. I like you people. I like hanging out with you. So, anyways, thanks everybody for coming and all the brilliance in the chat that I am way, way below and have no clue what you're talking about. Thank you, Richard and Suzy.
Thanks for
that
having
was actually
me.
really interesting. I learned a few things. So we will set up part 2 soon, and when we figure out whose schedules are what, and we will see you guys all then.
All right, everybody. Thanks, Beat.
Welcome. Thank you.